Imagine a world where sleep no longer exists, not by choice, not from temporary insomnia, but because overnight, humanity simply lost the ability to close its eyes and rest. At first, it feels almost like a gift. People smile at the idea of gaining more hours in their days. Workers see the chance to double their productivity. Students believe they'll be able to learn twice as much. Businessmen, artists, politicians, all see in this the opportunity to multiply their achievements. The whole world seems to vibrate with the promise of infinite time. But soon the illusion begins to shatter. Without sleep, the invisible gear that sustains body and mind starts to grind, to falter, to break. On the first sleepless night, the excitement is universal. People gather in squares, bars, and living rooms to celebrate global insomnia. Fireworks light up the sky as if humanity had entered a new era. But as the hours pass and the sun rises again, something strange hangs in the air. Laughter begins to lose its strength. Voices sound harsher. The energy that seemed infinite reveals itself as nothing but a mirage. The human body was never made to function without rest. In the first 24 hours, eyes burn, muscles feel heavy, the mind grows confused. People yawn nonstop, even knowing they will never again be able to sleep. On the streets, drivers make foolish mistakes. Pedestrians forget where they were going. In offices, employees bang their heads against desks, as if the body itself insisted on resting even without the possibility of sleep. After 2 days awake, the first signs of mental collapse appear. Memory begins to fail. Simple conversations turn into labyrinths of forgotten words. Students can't retain information, teachers stumble over their own sentences, doctors tremble while holding scalpels, judges forget the laws they're supposed to apply, engineers lose crucial calculations in critical projects. The mind, deprived of sleep, crashes. And then come the hallucinations. People see shadows that don't exist, hear voices no one has spoken, feel invisible presences around them. The limits between dream and reality dissolve, not because they're dreaming, but precisely because they will never dream again. The real world distorts, tinted with cruel mirages. Some believe they see dead relatives walking down the streets. Others swear their co-workers are imposters in disguise. Cities turn into theaters of collective madness. As sleepless nights accumulate, violence grows. Sleep, once the enemy of the clock, reveals itself as indispensable to sanity. Without it, patience disappears, empathy evaporates. Trivial arguments escalate into brutal fights. Couples who once shared the comfort of a bed now glare at each other as hostile strangers. Children cry incessantly, not from fear of the dark, but from an eternal exhaustion that never finds relief. Parents try to soothe them, but no longer have the strength or clarity to understand their suffering. After a week without sleep, bodies begin to fail irreversibly. The immune system collapses, opportunistic diseases spread like wildfire. Simple wounds don't heal. Flu, fever, infections, everything multiplies without resistance. Hospitals overflow, but doctors and nurses, as weakened as their patients, can barely provide care. Lines become corridors of moans where the sick wait for help that never comes. And it isn't only the body that breaks. Entire society loses its foundations. Without sleep, there's no longer Monday, Friday, Sunday. Time loses rhythm. Without nights of rest, days turn into an endless sequence, a straight line without pauses. Celebrations vanish because no one has the energy. Schools close since no teacher can teach. Businesses collapse because workers don't produce. They merely pretend, stumbling among incomplete reports and fatal mistakes. Governments try to act. Politicians call emergency meetings, scientists search for explanations, religious leaders declare the end of times. But how do you govern when no one can think straight? How do you make rational decisions when the mind is constantly in ruins? Speeches turn into endless stammering. Decrees are signed with grotesque mistakes. Presidents confuse allied nations with enemies. Diplomacy crumbles. War, inevitable, erupts from trivial misunderstandings, transformed into fatal insults by shattered minds. And wars no longer have strong armies. Soldiers can't march. Their hands tremble. Their eyes see enemies where there's only wind. War in this new world isn't fought with sophisticated weapons, but with bursts of blind violence, with enraged civilians, with uncontrolled crowds. Culture, which always flourished in rest, withers. No more lullabies because there's no sleep to cradle. No more dream poetry because there are no dreams. Painters scribble chaotic canvases, writers produce nonsense books, musicians play disjointed notes. Human creativity, without the restorative filter of sleep, becomes confused noise, an avalanche of broken images. The economy collapses as well. 24-hour markets become the norm, but no one shops with clarity. Buyers forget why they entered a store. Sellers can't remember prices. Money circulates in meaningless transactions until it loses all value. Financial chaos mirrors mental chaos. And the planet? The absence of sleep doesn't affect only humans. Animals also stop resting. Birds crash mid-flight, unable to fly with precision. Wolves lose coordination and hunt one another. Cows collapse in fields, yet never fall asleep. Cats, once symbols of rest, wander like restless specters. Even insects buzz in endless frenzy until they exhaust themselves and drop dead. The cycle of life shatters brutally. Forests, without birds sleeping on their branches, seem dead. The oceans, without creatures alternating between rest and activity, become whirlpools of disoriented fish until none remain. Nature, so dependent on the balance between wake and rest, falls apart in the face of planetary insomnia. And then comes complete psychological collapse. People lose not only memory, but identity itself. They forget their names, their histories, their loved ones. They forget who they are. Crowds wander the streets like zombies, murmuring incoherent words. Families dissolve, not from fights, but because they no longer recognize one another. Humanity without sleep loses its very notion of being human. The entire planet becomes a vast asylum under open skies. Cities, once vibrant, fill with screams, delusions, and deadly silence. Without sleep, there is no future, no hope. Only an eternal, endless present where each second is an unbearable burden. And even so, in the midst of this abyss, some try to resist. Scientists create dark capsules imitating artificial nights. Churches invent rituals of deep silence, trying to recreate the sensation of rest. Families gather around the table in silence, closing their eyes, pretending they still know how to sleep. But it's all theater, a pathetic performance before the void of lost sleep. Some artists, consumed by madness, turn the tragedy into cult. They create exhibitions of empty mattresses like sacred relics of a forgotten time. They write hymns about the eternal rest that will never come again. Death itself begins to be seen as the only form of true sleep, and crowds seek it as liberation. Cemeteries fill quickly, not only from disease and violence, but because humanity, without rest, no longer finds reason to continue. Time, once divided into mornings and nights, into work and rest, into dreams and awakenings, dissolves into an indistinct sequence. Days and nights become the same thing. The clock loses meaning. Seasons still change, but no one notices clearly. The earth spins, but for humans, it no longer matters. And then imagine if, amid this despair, a single human being could sleep. A child, perhaps, suddenly closes her eyes and, against all laws of this new world, dreams. The rumor spreads like wildfire. Someone slept. People travel miles just to watch that child breathe in peace. Doctors study her, artists paint her, poets describe her. She becomes a living myth, proof that the impossible can still happen. Just 1 hour of that child's sleep generates more hope than all the words spoken so far. And humanity, around this small miracle, realizes how much it had lost. Sleep, so ordinary, so ignored, was in fact the beating heart of life. Without it, there is no memory, no love, no sanity, no humanity. So next time you lie down, close your eyes with gratitude. Cherish every dream, every instant of rest. Because a world without sleep is not only unbearable, it is a world where life's very essence disappears. A world without sleep is no world at all.